Hi, this is Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today I am going to do a dyeing experiment where we are going to dye roving that has been crocheted into a chain. We're going to kettle dye this starting with the dry fiber and see what kind of patterns we end up with. I am going to be using Knit Picks Full Circle Roving in Pigeon. This is a roving that is currently, I believe, discontinued, but I like dyeing it because I like that it's not white to start with. And so I'm sure that, you can find some kind of fun pale roving to play with. Okay, whoops. So first, I am going to set up, let me make sure that I can see, yeah, set up to crochet. Make a slip knot, like so, and then I'm just going to keep pulling the fiber through the hole. Not super tight or anything, but since I'm planning on adding this fiber to the dye bath while it's still dry, hopefully the dye will adhere to the fiber at different rates and we'll get some fun modeling. And if this first experiment works out nicely, then I have some other ideas of fun ways we can try to dye braided or crocheted roving. All right, so there's our braid. And I'm hoping that by the fact that it's been in this crochet chain already, that this will also protect the fiber from felting. I have still yet to felt my roving when I've kettle dyed it, and I hope that this is not the first chance, but this is why these are dyeing experiments. We will see what we end up with. It is now time to set up the dye bath. I've got in my pot probably 6 to 8 cups of water that I'm going to bring to a boil, and then I will reduce the heat so that we don't have any bubbling when I add the roving. But first I can bring it to a rolling boil without any problem. I'm going to add some white vinegar. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. I think we're going to go for a nice fun blue-green today. I've got some Wilton's teal that apparently I have never used before. The water is still cool, so I can try to get the food coloring off the little cap. There we go. Now, if memory serves me correctly, I believe that Wilton's teal is equivalent to McCormick's neon blue. Let's see what this says. Maybe not. Maybe there's some blue and yellow in it. But no red, so I'm not expecting to see breaking. I'm expecting to see more tonal variations of color from this experiment. Now to this teal, I'm going to add some McCormick's green food coloring. Let's do it this way. Okay, 14 drops. That looks like a lovely dye bath to me. Now we just have to wait for things to start boiling, and then we can get started. The dye bath is at a nice rolling boil, but we don't need it that hot. And we don't want to have too many bubbles, so I am going to turn it down to low so we can keep the heat. But now we're just at barely a simmer. Or even just below, maybe I'll... There we go. That looks great. Now my gloves are off because I don't think I'm going to dye my hands during this next part, but you never know. I have a trusted slotted spoon to help dip the crocheted fiber into the dye bath. Let's cross our fingers and hope that we get something gorgeous. Feed it on in. That's a really pretty color. See, I'm trying to submerge it, but agitate as little as possible. We're hoping to get some nice tonal variation out of this fiber, and I'm hoping that the fact that it's starting out in a braid will assist in us getting some darker and lighter patches. But again, we'll see what happens as things progress. But I'm going to cover this up and leave it in the pot for, let's say, 20 minutes. And then we'll come back and check and see how things are doing. But I am going to check periodically to make sure that the heat doesn't come up too much. You do see some bubbling because now there's something for the bubbles to nucleate on. I can turn it down a tiny bit more. After 20 minutes in the dye bath, let's check and see. There's still some color. Oops, that's hot. There's still some color in the water, but most of the color seems to be in the fiber. I'm going to turn off the heat completely and let this sit and cool off, because once it's cool, then I can take the fiber off. And I really want this to be completely cool before I move the fibers. I do not want to agitate anything. The fiber is still a little too warm to wash, but it has cooled off enough that I feel comfortable taking it out of the pot carefully. What we can see here is that we've got a brilliant green, or at least that's how it looks while wet. I'm not sure if the crocheting of the braid will have much, if any, effect. This is something that we'll discover more after washing, but I do think we will have some nice tonal differences. The nice thing is that all of the dye did make it into the fiber, so yay. That always gets me excited. And now we'll wait and let this fiber cool completely. Looking at this cooled braid, I would say we've got some patches of dark color and lighter color in here. Potentially some of the lighter sections are within the braids, crochet braids itself, but we'll know more about that once it has been washed. I've put the cold fiber into lukewarm water, and I'm going to wash it with some dish soap until the water runs clear, and then we'll hang it up to dry and eventually have a reveal. We have the finished dyed braid here, and you can see, because we started with the dry fiber, we do have some tonal variation just already on the outside of the braid. If we zoom in, you can see that it looks like that some of these sections that are within the crochet braid, or really crochet chain, might in fact be lighter. So now we will finally unravel this and see what we get. If I start from the end that I stopped crocheting with, then there we go. Now I should just be able to pull. And check it out. We see white patches. Look at that speckledness. But hey, as I'm pulling this apart, these interior patches are not completely white. I mean, the original color wasn't white, it was a gray. But we do have some really nice variation of the tone, going from the brighter green to a paler green to the almost white. Ooh, that's really fun. Well, take a look at that. I've got so many wonderful spots of color. I'm really, really excited with how dyeing this crochet chain of roving turned out, and I cannot wait to expand on this technique and try some other variations of it. I know that the yarn that I spin up from this will have some great variations of color, you know, whether I do however many plies I have, and I will be really excited to spin and knit with this fiber. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I cannot wait to take you on our next dyeing experiment.